Good morning, everybody. That's right. Good morning on a lovely morning. It is the morning of Tuesday, and we have successfully completed the heat exchange. I am now proud to tell you that I am officially in heat. That's right. I'm in heat. Andrea's in heat too. All right. Andy, get in the chat room. Tell me if we have sound. All right, there we go. She's in the chat room. Do we have sound? I just want to make sure because I failed to check, but I did, and I'm looking now. Yeah, so Andy and I are both in heat. So this podcast, welcome aboard, everybody. Welcome aboard on a lovely Tuesday morning. Thank you, Greg. As I mentioned, Andy and I are in heat right now, and it's going to be a very interesting day around here as the furnace is now fixed. We had a new thing and the whole deal. Good morning to Arnie, who you'll be hearing up next, and Greg and Dale and DK, Lucian and Phil. Good morning to Ray and Timothy, my hooker, Unholy Toledo, and a cast of thousands, and there you are. And I've been broadcasting since 1993, and I am privileged to be on the air on a day that has been clogged up by a major story, and yet I am the only one that is going to deal with something that is not being dealt with. And I know that fantasy players and everybody else around the country who's listening to the cheating scandal and the whole thing, and we are forgetting about among the most important things in Major League Baseball and in fantasy baseball, something that's not been mentioned by anybody. And I'm proud to be the one to bring this to you, and I'm sure one of the reasons you're here is because you want to know about the trade, the signing of Ivan Nova to Detroit, the trade of Tony Kemp. Yeah, we'll talk about all that. The Nova signing has gone totally unnoticed. The trade of Tony Kemp, almost totally unnoticed. I mean, come on. There's stuff going on in Major League Baseball. We can't be sitting around this stealing of signals and losing the general manager and all that. That doesn't mean anything to fantasy baseball. I mean, the Chicago Cubs had a logjam at second base. A logjam. Do you know what a logjam is? Have you ever had a logjam? Have you ever even seen a logjam? Well, the Cubs had one at second base. You can't start your season with a logjam. Believe me when I tell you, I've been through many of them. They traded Tony Kemp to the Athletics for Alfonso Rivas. And we're not talking about that. And Kemp, 28 years old, acquired from the Astros. What does that mean? That means the Cubbies are going to be doing funny things. Okay? They acquired him from Martin Maldonado. So he's out of minor league. You know, look, I'll tell you something. Nico Horner, David Bote, Robel Garcia, Daniel Del Scalzo are still candidates at second base. They also signed Carlos Suzy, whatever his name is, to a minor league deal. Rivas is only 23, batted .290, something with 9 homers, 60 RBIs in Class A style, Triple A. So he had a .387 on base percent. Watch this kid, Rivas. You're laughing. Alfonso Rivas. He was named to the All-Star team in the California League. And then Ivan Nova? Are you kidding me? Almost totally unnoticed. You can listen to all the sports shows you want, and nobody is talking about the Tigers announced they have signed Ivan Nova. I mean, come on, fantasy baseball. Ivan Nova signs with the Detroit Tigers, and nobody is talking about it. You show me one podcast that's dealing with Ivan Nova and Tony Kemp. I'll tell you what, people are not doing their homework, okay? Yeah, the futures are, it's even. It's even, Brooks. It's going to be a very flat opening. So Brooks is here now. Good morning to Brooks. Good morning to Doug Boyle. And so Ivan Nova, So let me get you filled in on what that means. I had him last year when he was on the White Sox. He's not on the White Sox anymore. He's now on the Detroit Tigers. So get ready to explode with that information. Don't you ever say that the legend doesn't produce. Okay? So look, he's not good, but he's reliable. He hasn't been good for about 30 starts and 170 innings. He doesn't walk a lot of batters. Look, we all know, but his ERA is over 4.3, and he's 31 years old. Anyway, so I just wanted to make sure that everything was covered. Ivan Nova to Detroit. Tony Kemp was traded by the Chicago Cubs. And it's so important, I don't even remember what team was traded to. All right, anyway, now we have to touch on this thing with, you know what's going to be great? If you got nothing to do the next couple of weeks, let's go on the Astros Fan Fest, Ben, the caravan. That ought to be fun, right? Boy, that should be fun. And you would think that they knew that something was going on, because most of the players that are going to attend the Fan Fest, who wants to go to the Astros Fan Fest with me? Come on, let's do it. Let's go to the Astros Fan Fest. Who wants to go to the Astros Fan Fest with me? That's number one. And number two, that caravan is going to be exciting to be on also. But most of the players that are participating in the Fan Fest and the caravan are mainly younger players who were not really in the majors. A lot of their prospects, a lot of young players, okay? Andrea says every team is cheating. As long as you're not cheating, I don't care. Michael Itch in your kitchen table is here. Mal Pal is here. We got a rock and rollin' White Sox Al. Good morning, White Sox Al. George is here. They'll be stealing food at the Fan Fest. This is the greatest place to be right now. We have insight that nobody can believe. Even George can't believe what he said, okay? All right, but anyway, that's what do you mean? Not much to, I don't know. Brooks, are you a Cincinnati fan? Because I think Cincinnati's going to do well. And in our draft, let me see. Don't steal my player. I got a Cincinnati player that I'm taking next. I can't believe he's still there. I know. Come on, don't steal him from me. All right, here's the deal. First of all, on a betting cycle, I'm checking the odds. It looks to me that the odds on Texas and the odds now in betting, you got, Oakland. That's my, look, Oakland has been my pick. I'm just checking on the odds. Oakland has been a pick. There's no question about it. To win the American League pennant now, you had the Astros were 3-1, and I'm saying that Oakland 15-1. Let's look at a real long shot. The Texas Rangers at 25-1, the Angels at 15-1. So those odds might be moving around a little bit, don't you think? Moving around. There's going to be a long shot in there. The interesting thing is for me and I've talked about this for a while, and I'll tell you why. The reason that players were not punished is because, and I put this up all over the place, in the investigation, the players were told, in order to get the information out of the players, they were told, if you tell the truth, you will not get punished. If we find that you're lying in the investigation, you're going to be severely punished. The fact is that a lot of them told stuff, and they had to live up to it, and they weren't punished. It would have been very difficult, although you take a look at the Black Sox, when they were punished, 8 players were banned from baseball. I really think that those players who were documented, look, they had 23 players that they interviewed, and they had 68 witnesses that were interviewed. And out of that, they could have gotten some clear-cut documentation that certain players were really into it. And one of them was the Mets' new manager, Carlos Beltran. A member of the Houston team in 2017, he was part of the league's investigation into the Astros, and Major League Baseball did not issue any punishment on Beltran because he gave the league his full cooperation, and listen to this, in quotes, and admitted to everything. This is by Andy Martino of SNY. Beltran changed his tune since the league's investigation started in November because he did not want any punishment, though he initially denied any knowledge of the violations on the Astros' part. Now, what does the Met organization do? What do they do? Do they have scruples? Do they have intestinal fortitude enough to say, Mr. Carlos Beltran, for your participation in the scandal of the integrity of baseball, we can no longer have you manage our New York Mets? Because it's not a victimless crime. It's not a victimless crime. You know, in New York, they get this stupid rule that if you commit a victimless crime, they're not even going to keep you in prison overnight on bail. So they got this guy testing the rule. He's walking into banks, and he's given a note, and he's robbing 4 or 5 banks. He goes from one to another. They arrest him, they bring him into the courthouse, and they let him go, and he goes out and robs another bank because he's not using a gun or any weapon. What he's using is just a piece of paper saying, give me your money. I mean, now I got to stop my joke. I go to Chase Bank, and a lot of times at the cashier's window, they have lollipops. I say, if I take all the lollipops, will I be robbing a bank? And they laugh sometimes. But I better not say that anymore, because this guy gives them a note and gets money, but they can't arrest him. So, but it's not a victimless crime. I mean, remember Jose Altuve? He wins a batting title. Beats out Aaron Judge. Should Aaron Judge be given that batting title? Joe Girardi. Remember Joe Girardi? The reason he lost his job with the New York Yankees as the manager is because he didn't make it to the World Series. All right? Who's Burrow? We're talking about the quarterback from LSU. I know. You want me to talk about that game? So, look. Unbelievable. Good morning to Chris Gallo. So it's pretty weird, man. Pretty weird. That, football is in the air. I know it was a great game by this guy, okay? Burrow, better than all those guys. So we'll see. And right now we're faced with the situation that Girardi lost his job because the Astros beat the Yankees. George Springer is pretty interesting because he knew, you know, he's in arbitration, and he's $5 million apart, and that's the pretty big spread. We talked yesterday how that's among the most interesting of the arbitration cases, and I can just imagine the arbitrator, you know, the opposition comes up and says, George Springer, he knew what was coming. He's not going to know what was coming, and I'll tell you what, if the numbers for the Houston Astros are down this season, wow. There's going to be a hue and there's going to be a cry. So let me get this right now, all right? If you steal signs and get fired, that's one thing. That's bad. That's bad. But you do steroids, and then you get millions of dollars in contracts, and you get inducted into the Hall of Fame. Right, Mike Piazza? Right? I don't know. You steal signs and get fired. You do steroids, get millions of dollars in contracts, and get inducted into the Hall of Fame. And here's a very interesting situation that has developed. Logan Morrison, who just signed the contract somewhere. Logan